Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Parent University. We will be presenting tonight on our new K-5 Distance Learning Academy, the Spark Academy. We will only be talking about the K-5 program tonight. If you are interested in hearing more about the middle or the high school virtual options for next year in the Cyber Academy, you can join us next week, same time, same day, Tuesday, April 27th at 5:30, right here on our YouTube channel. I'm going to go over a little bit about how this works this evening. If this is your first Parent University, we have turned on our comment section on our YouTube channel. We're asking if you have any questions to please put them in that comment section so we can respond to them following the presentation. We will only be responding to questions that pertain to tonight's topic, which is K-5 virtual learning in the Spark Academy. Please do not use the comment section to post general comments, links, or any inappropriate language. This will be removed so we can be sure that we capture all the questions. At the end of the presentation, our panel of experts will respond to the questions. And if by chance we're not able to get to every question tonight, you can email your questions to the Spark Academy at rrps.net, and that's Spark with 2 R's. So Spark Academy at rrps.net. With that, I want to introduce you to our panel this evening and our presenters. We have with us Joy Morales. She is our Executive Director of Elementary Curriculum and Instruction. We have Rachel Aker. She is our Assistant Principal for Elementary Virtual Education. We have Janice Chenault. She is our elementary School Improvement Officer. We have Paul Romero, who is our Executive Director of Information Technology. Heidi Kenworthy is our Assistant Principal for the Cyber Academy. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team to begin presenting. Thank you.
Good evening, Rio Rancho families. We're really excited to have you join us as we talk about our new opportunity in Rio Rancho. We definitely learned this year that we had to have an option for families for virtual due to the pandemic and the situation. And out of that, we were able to create a program for students that was effective for elementary. Teachers became experts in virtual learning and working with families, and students became experts and found that in some cases, this is the best way for them to learn and receive their instruction. Out of that, we sent a survey to families and found that we had enough interest to continue this. And so we came up with our K-5 Spark Academy, which will be 100% virtual for the 2021-22 school year. Next slide, Beth. This is our mission in Rio Rancho, to make sure that we graduate each student with the education foundation they need to be responsible, ethical contributors to society. And our vision for the Spark Academy, what we want to see is that we can continue an engaging, rigorous educational opportunity for students where, with a collaboration between parents, student, teacher, school community that can meet the needs of our students in a way that works best for our families. And I will turn it over to Rachel, who is our current assistant principal for virtual learning. You're on mute, Rachel.
These are all the things that we've learned from this school year. What better way to show you the purpose of looking at building Spark University or Spark Academy is that we wanted to build on what we had learned from this past school year of that pandemic response and provide a quality virtual option for families that have had success with online learning. These are some quotes from teachers about some of the things that they learned from students who really benefited from this option. Teachers really felt like they had made stronger connections with students that they had and families than they ever had before. They were able to see their newborn baby sister or brother in their class. They were able to meet their pets, their extended family, see their Christmas tree, bring all of these things into the classroom that they couldn't do in the online setting, in the in-person setting. And beyond that, that students were really, and on the next slide, there's some quotes from kids, but students were really able to have strong independence in the classroom, and the parents were able to build on that relationship with the teacher to support students in their education. On the next slide, we wanted to tell you a few of the things that we were able to do in this past school year that we will use to inform the work with Spark Academy for the next school year. Really bringing those teachers together into one group to provide an even better online option for our families. So we're looking at continuing with that 5-day-a-week direct instruction through the Google Classroom and Google Meet setting, access to that guaranteed viable curriculum, the curriculum materials that are supported by Rio Rancho Public Schools Curriculum and Instruction Department, some options for in-person activities. When we look at kindergarten through 5th grade in an online setting, we want to make sure they have options and opportunities to come in a safe way, to interact with the teacher, have hands-on science activities, work together and build that relationship with their classmates as well. We want to provide a combination of small group and whole group instruction, much like we have this year, with teacher support for any of those asynchronous activities that students have. We'll continue to use common formative assessments and state testing. That would be another piece that would be an in-person assessment for students. And then really building on, like Jana said, that collaboration between parents and teachers and students. So with that, we want to make sure we continue to provide support for those families and students. They will have a Chromebook to check out to them from the school. They will have curriculum materials, books in hand, as many manipulatives, hands-on science materials that we can provide to them, continued through that supply pickup procedure like we've used this school year. And then continuing to collaborate with the community. So through this school year, we've been able to have some of those virtual field trips. We would like to continue that partnership with communities, organizations, and an option for some in-person field trips as we move out of this pandemic and build on what we've learned from this school year. And then we also, Mr. Romero will talk to you about some support through the federal government for assistance for families, and continue to have that lunch provided for families as well. And then this school year, we were able to provide desks for students in online learning. If there's anybody that still needs a desk, we actually ended up with a surplus at the end of the year. So you can email Spark Academy about that next, or as well. And Jana is going to tell you a little bit more detail about more what to expect about the program.
Rachel's not taking credit for that, but she was the one that found those community connections, found individuals who were willing to refurbish desks and donate them to our school district. So that's been really exciting for families who have found that need in their homes. So the next slide, Beth. We wanted to highlight what's the same and what will be different. A lot of what your students experience this year will be the same. We'll still be using Rio Rancho adopted instructional materials. We will send curriculum materials home. Attendance will be required. We'll be following the same attendance policy that we had this year. So attending Google Meets will be part of the expectation for attendance. Continuing frequent communication between parents and teacher, particularly in a situation where students are learning somewhere outside of the school building. We'll continue to have related arts, a counselor, academic interventions, and administrative support. If your child receives services, that will continue for next year. And this is a free public education, so you don't have to pay to attend the Spark Academy. What will look different is similar to this year where we asked you to do a learning compact. That will continue, but only for virtual students. We need to have some things in place to know that students will be successful, particularly with younger students. They have to have an adult there to support them at home. We need to make sure that we have that in place so that they're getting the support that they need. Attendance will be based on Google Meets, and we do have an internal process for that we share with schools and communicate with families so that they understand what that looks like. There is some flexibility with schedules. So if a student comes into an elementary school, they're there from 8:45 to 4. They have very specific classes they have to attend. The day is very scheduled for them. With this virtual environment, teachers have been able to create more flexible schedules for families with opportunities for whole group, small group, individual help, independent work for students. Parents worked with teachers in some instances where they would or wouldn't attend, so they could have some flexibility there. And anywhere that you have Wi-Fi access, you could access the virtual academy. If you go on vacation, your students don't have to miss school. They can still attend school while you're on vacation. And the other difference is, and we'll talk about this with registration, but you do have to transfer from your home school. We got this question quite a bit. You would have to transfer to Spark Academy after you register for your home school. So if you currently attend Cielo Azul, you would register at Cielo Azul, and then you would put in a transfer to attend Spark Academy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, Beth. And I'm going to turn it over to Joy Morales.
Thanks, Jana. So you're going to hear a little bit of repeat what Jana and Rachel has already spoken about, which is we've learned a lot with our first year of virtual instruction for elementary. And one of the things that we've learned is that there absolutely is a need for Spark Academy. With that, we've also learned that we need to provide opportunities for students to interact. So we will be providing opportunity for in-person field trips in the future. The other thing that we have learned is that the direct instruction that teachers provide is vital. So we would like to continue with that direct instruction using both a whole group and small group setting to support those students with flexibility. We'll be using Google Classroom and Google Meet, same as we did this year. Teachers will provide a balance of online and offline activities, so some synchronous sessions where students are able to come together with a teacher, as well as those asynchronous opportunities that students can work at their own pace and work on some activities that are best suited for their level of learning. We continue to remain committed to our standards-based instruction with our approved and supported instructional materials. We believe in rigorous instruction, supporting students in every way we can. We'll use ReadyGen for our ELA. We will use Eureka Math and Zern for our math. We are in conversation with Next Gen Science Standards, looking for the absolute best way to instruct our students through science, especially knowing that there is a high need for science, hands-on science learning. So providing some opportunities for some kits that can go home where students can really get engaged in science, as well as some continued foundational skills support. Next slide. One of the things that Rachel has really excelled at this year is ensuring that our students and our teachers and parents are fully supported with our programs, with our virtual learning resources. One of the things that we have in place this year we will move forward with is our online after-school tutoring program. We also have a website, our RRPS online learning website that supports families with remote learning. We have our reentry page for parents. That is a resource with information about the virtual program as we have, embarked on learning this year during a pandemic. Lots of information that continues to be updated, as well as our parent universities, such as what we're doing tonight. We also have a virtual elementary online page for teachers that houses links and resources and additional supports for our teachers. That's all in one place. We have our learning compact, which Jana already talked about a little bit, and we will continue with our discipline matrix, making sure that our students continue to follow the RRPS discipline matrix and our attendance procedures for virtual learning. Next slide. And this will be Paul.
And this will be Pop.
Thanks for logging in tonight. As you know, we worked really hard this past year to make sure that people had the technology they needed. And our model seemed to work really well. So if you, every student or every RRPS student has a Chromebook right now with a power cord. Some have cases as well. So we're trying to protect them as much as possible. New students that are looking into Spark who haven't been part of it will be issued a Chromebook before the fall begins. So we replace these Chromebooks about 4 to 5 years, and they last pretty well. So we just ask that as you use the equipment, that please take care of it, because it's kind of your lifeline, of course, to everything. There's some federal programs that Rachel talked about earlier to help with Wi-Fi for homes this year, and we've attached those to this PowerPoint presentation. Lifeline, there's a program called Lifeline, and it's a federal benefit that lowers your cost of either phone or internet service. But once you qualify for that, there's also a Lifeline benefit. So next slide, Beth, please. So the Emergency Broadband Benefit, or EBB, if you qualify for the Lifeline, you qualify for what's called the EBB. And that's supposed to be start at the end of this month. So there's a little bit of information here about the Emergency Broadband Benefit, the EBB, and it will provide a discount of up to $50 per month towards your service in the homes. And if you live on tribal lands, it's up to $75. This is actually more money than the benefit that we were able to do through Rio Rancho Public Schools. So we're really blessed to be able to work with the federal government and try to get this out to the homes. So we just wanted to share that with you tonight. Technology always tries to work in the background, but as you know, this is you know, the lifeline to getting your education. We're really here to serve you at your homes, whatever you need, and we're proud to be able to offer these services to you. So thank you very much. Next slide.
Thank you, Paul. So how do you enroll? The first step that we considered in this process, because we really had to think, this being new, what we were going to do, is we sent out the application to see who was interested. So we had an idea of what the staffing would look like across our campuses. We also have to apply to the New Mexico Department of Education for a new school ID number. So we're waiting for that new number from our state. The application was sent through email to you. We can send it to you if you would like to receive it again. Just email us and we'll send it to you. And that gives us basic information about students from each site. Tomorrow, registration opens for your home school. You will register if you're a current student in Rio Rancho. You'll register as a current student through our InfoSnap system and complete that process with your home school first. Then we will be contacting everybody who filled out the application and send them a transfer request, send you a transfer request so that you can transfer from your home school to the virtual academy. So filling out the application and registering doesn't guarantee that spot into Spark until you fill out that transfer request. And we're here to help you through that whole process. We know that can be a lot of steps and it can be confusing. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need any help making that happen. We have received a question, and we're going to get into the FAQs here at the end. If you have incoming kindergartners, register your new kindergartner at their home school, and then you can go through the process of transferring the kindergartner to our Spark Academy. And the next slide will take us to some of the questions that we've received so far. One of the questions we've received was, if I'm not happy, if I enroll in Spark, can I go back to my home school if COVID changes or my students want to go back? Yes, you could return back to your home school. However, once a family decides to make a change during the year, they can only make that change once. The implication of that is staffing our schools and making sure that we have an appropriate number of students in a classroom with teachers. So we really have to think about our entire district staffing as students are moving back and forth. If you don't sign up now, can you enroll later? Yes, if there's space. Once we get the specific number of students who are interested in Spark, we will be staffing that school and all of our elementary schools based on those numbers with a little room for growth. Once that school, the virtual school, reaches max capacity, we won't be able to take any more transfers, just like any of our other schools in Rio Rancho. Field trips will not be mandatory if the health order is in place. We won't ask you to come, your child to come. We will come up with alternative activities for that day that would be asynchronous. We're hoping to have them monthly or bi-monthly, but that really does depend on the ambitious nature of some of our teachers. Hopefully, some of you are fortunate now to have students who have done virtual field trips with their classroom teachers. The teachers have went to the zoo, or they went to Tent Rocks or to another location and filmed the field trip and shared it with your child. So that might be another option for students who choose not to attend in person. I already said that the transfers are required. We will not have any virtual opportunities at any of our other elementary schools. It is only through the Spark Academy. It will be our only option for virtual learning for elementary next year. We will continue if your child needs special education services. We are working with our special education department to make sure that we can provide those services. However, depending on the services that your child receives, an IEP team may need to convene to determine if that is the best place for your child to receive services. And you will get a Chromebook, that is, and all of the curriculum materials that your child will need are provided for free. And with that, Beth, we stand for questions.
Great. Thank you so much to each of you for your presentation this evening. We are going to jump to our questions, and I invite any of you who have the answer to go ahead and jump in. So our first question for this evening is, if you have transferred to an out-of-district school already and have been accepted, do we apply for a transfer from that school we have been accepted into?
I want to make sure I understand that correctly. They're transferred out of our district into like a nearby district. They would have to transfer. They would have to register at their home school in our district and then transfer to Spark, if I'm understanding the question correctly. So they just re-register at their home school and then transfer to Spark.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question, how large will classes be at the Spark Academy?
I can answer that. We're planning for the classes to be the same class size as they would for any in-person class. So the kindergarten classes being smaller than the 5th grade classes, for example.
And I would just add, that's a really, it's an interesting question, because this year a lot of our virtual classes were larger to accommodate our in-person numbers, which were smaller. And we really want to level that next year. We know that was a heavy weight for our teachers, so we are committed to having them be the same size.
Thank you. All right, our next question. Can you apply in the middle of the school year for the Spark Academy?
I think that question was sort of addressed when Jana spoke earlier, that if you do apply for the Spark Academy later in the school year, then you may end up on a waiting list because we have to staff on the people that register on time.
Thank you. Next question. What if I am new to my homeschool? My kids were district transfers and to date never enrolled in their homeschool.
No problem. Register at your homeschool, and then you can still do the transfer to Spark Academy, and you are welcome at your homeschool at any time. That will never be denied to you because that is part of your free public education. So at any point, you can always go back to your homeschool.
Thank you. All right, next question. What is the time frame for applying to the academy? Do we have to apply today?
We are really hoping to get a solid number, as solid as we can by Friday. Currently, we are in the process of staffing all of our schools, and we really do have that on hold so that we can ensure that we have staff for this academy. That being said, if we have interest after that, reach out to us and let us know. We are going to staff for a little extra room, but not too much. So by Friday, we really need some solid numbers. That's our goal.
Perfect. All right. Is there a plan for the school to operate beyond this upcoming school year?
Yes, we do plan to start this out this school year and build this program over the next several years. We really hope to continue to learn from what we're doing and build on that and offer it for more than just this year, for sure.
Some of the success that we found this year is we had students that really struggled in person for whatever reason. There were lots of different reasons that parents shared with us, but this did it for them. In addition, we had families that traveled a lot, and this worked for the families. Our opportunity when this whole crisis came up, the opportunity was for us to open something like this for elementary. Since secondary has something similar, we were really hoping we could do this. So we're excited about the parent interest and want to be able to provide this to as many families as possible who would like it.
Great. Okay, if there's not enough students, will the program be ended?
I am excited to say that as of today, we have a strong amount that we're going to be able to move forward. So we don't see it ending. Now, that doesn't mean that down the road it wouldn't evolve into something. There could be something different down the road that we can't anticipate now with technology the way that it is, but we do not anticipate this ending.
All right. Are teachers going to be present and online live throughout the day, or will they just meet in the morning and have children work on their own the rest of the day?
That's a good question. We do plan to build on a similar model to what we have now. So teachers will be online and available from the entire 9 to 4 time. That doesn't mean that the kids will be in meets that entire time, but the teacher will be available for them. So the students will participate in a minimum of 3 or 4 meets throughout the day, and then optional support sessions for when they're doing independent work. So it wouldn't be just in the morning, but there would be some options for flexibility in those optional support sessions throughout the day. I don't know if Joy, if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think when we're looking at Google Meets, we're really going to focus on our core content, which is our foundational skills for ELA, as well as our reading and writing for ELA, and then math. And we will also have opportunities for those science learning meets as well. So that's when Rachel says 3 to 4, that's what we're looking at. Definitely the core, foundational skills, reading, writing, math, and then science as an opportunity as well. That'll be a combination of direct instruction. It might be some whole group, and then breakouts into small group where the teacher is able to work with a small group. It might consist of just meeting with small groups while students do some asynchronous work. So that's that flexibility piece that we're looking at. That's also that teacher autonomy where, they're serving the needs of the students that they have in their class. So.
And just to clarify for those of you that are listening, when we talk about direct instruction or explicit instruction, we know from research that there are very specific teaching strategies that have to be done between the adult and the child for kids to learn. And with structured literacy, that's one of the most important things. As we talk about K-1-2 and learning to read, that has to be between the teacher and the students with a lot of conversation going back and forth, as learning to read means listening first. It doesn't mean actually seeing what's on the paper. So that oral fluency is really important for reading. That has to be direct with students, but we know there's a minimum amount of time and attention that we have with our younger students to do that. So it'll be that direct instruction and then practice at home with whomever their coach is. And it's really important to us, especially for our youngest students, that we honor what the research says about reading and our students have that support so that they are getting everything that they need.
Thank you. All right, our next question. Can we transfer our child out of Spark and into in-person learning in the middle of the 21-22 school year?
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yes, so it would be an option. So if it's not working for families, it's not working for the kid to be in that virtual environment, then we want what's best for the kid, and they can absolutely transfer back to their home school. With that being said, once they've made that decision, they wouldn't be able to come back to online learning throughout the school year. So it would be, that would be that final decision to move back to that in-person learning, because our goal is really to find what's best for our students.
Thank you. Okay, next question. If my son has always gone to Sandia Vista Elementary, but that is not his home school, does he ask for a transfer from Sandia Vista or from his home school?
From homeschool. So even to attend Sandia Vista every year, parents have to put in a transfer. So they would register with their homeschool, put the transfer in for Spark.
Thank you. Okay, once the application is submitted, how long will it take to know if the kids are accepted?
Our intention is to let families know as soon as possible. So we will review the applications now, and then communicate to families after that Friday deadline. I'm not sure I can't commit to a solid date at this time, but we will communicate with families as soon as possible, and then send that transfer request, like Jana said, as soon as that's available. So we are waiting on that transfer request until we get that school ID number from the state. Do you want to add to that, Jana?
Yes, I would say that, quite to be very honest and transparent, attendance is a factor for us. So if your child has been attending and is successful, you'll be in Spark if you've applied. The only concerns for us are for children that may have not been as successful as they could have been virtually. So in that case, we'll be working with families and having conversations around how can we make sure your child is successful moving into virtual next year, because we want you to attend, and having individual conversations with families. But if you've been successful this year, your child has been attending, then you will be part of the program, and we will be sending that transfer. I would say we could look at it next week, but we have to wait to actually enroll until we have the state number.
Thank you. All right, what are the requirements to be accepted if our child is under an IEP?
It would be the same conversation around attendance. If your child has been successful, regardless if your child has an IEP, if your child was successful and their needs were being met, and the seal at the homeschool and the teacher can support that this works for your child, and as a parent you've seen it work, then your child's absolutely will be accepted, and we will provide those services.
All right, apart from hands-on science activities, will the school provide opportunities for other types of socialization? Can you discuss more about plans for in-person meeting opportunities?
I would say a lot of that depends on the grade. It depends on the teacher. Like Jana said, we absolutely have the intention of providing varied opportunities for kids in person throughout the school year. So focusing on building that community in their classroom, those social skills, those social emotional skills with their group, with their peers, in addition to standards-based connections for students. So I can't speak to exactly the details of what those would be, because we really want to plan that with the teachers. We want the teachers to be a part of that discussion, and with that, with the parents as well. Like we mentioned before in our presentation, a lot of the work that we intend to do is through a partnership with families, and that I think that that's the only way to make this really successful for kids. So we don't have a calendar or a specific set of activities at this time. We really want to build that with our community as we move forward.
And we're really waiting on what the health order will be and what our gathering requirements can be. The other piece we want to be very cognizant of, since this is a virtual program, we don't know how equitable access is for students to get together, and we want to make sure that every student that's in the program would have access and be able to attend. So we have to work with transportation. If we are having gatherings and parents can't bring their children, we need to work with them to see if we can provide that for all students. We will definitely have opportunities, but we want to be conscious of limitations families might have too.
Thank you. All right, our next question. Is teacher credentialing and student curriculum testing the same as the RRPS traditional schooling?
Yes, and we are accepting transfers into the program. We want teachers that have been successful this year and Rachel's worked with all of them in selecting who we have with our students in this program. We want it to be successful, and state testing is, if it is in place next year, it's the same requirement, and that would have to take place in person.
Great. What if I'm not sure by now what would be best for my child for the virtual or in person? Can I transfer when we get closer to the school year sometime in August when school starts?
I would say yes, as long as there's space. It really just depends on whether or not there will be space. But I mean, we do understand that. We know some people are waiting to see what's going to happen with the health order. We do anticipate that some of the health requirements will be in place in the school next year. We just don't know what they all will be. But yes, as long as there is room, we'll take students.
Great. Okay, will there be a deadline for students after school hours to finish up their assignments? How will the assignments be issued? Will they have to upload the same way they have been in virtual learning?
Yes. With that said, we're definitely building on what we've learned from this school year. So, you know, our primary teachers, for example, learned that it may be easier to hold up their work during the meet rather than submitting a picture of an assignment. And so we want to make it as easy as possible for students to turn in their work. As far as timelines, we really want that to be an area of flexibility for families. So trying to set it up in a way that that students don't have to do those independent activities during some specific time, that there's time for them to be able to complete that at a time that's convenient for them and their learning coach. So that would be an area that we're going to focus on in our planning to offer that flexibility for families. But we will still submit assignments through Google Classroom, similarly to what we have done, and offer opportunities for students to share their work and their learning with the teacher in those live meets, especially during those small group times with students as well.
All right, our next question. If we submitted an application for 2 kids, is it a guarantee that they could both be accepted, or is there a chance that they would be separated?
Rachel and I are both shaking our head. Like as we said before, if they were successful, we'll take them both. Absolutely.
All right. How many students will be accepted into Spark?
When we presented to the school board based on initial public interest, we had 571 possible students that parents said may attend. We do not have that number right now, but that is what we budgeted for. However, we aren't close to that right now. So depending on how many people fill out the application, we will go as high as that number because that's what we presented to our school board. Unless we don't have that interest, and then it could be smaller. And we're okay if it starts smaller. We want it to be successful. We want to take every kid and family that's ready to go on this venture with us. So right now we're about 150 applications, but we're still getting questions from parents and asking for copies of the application.
Great. Okay. Will students have books, or will everything be specifically online? If so, will we have to go to each homeschool to pick up materials or books, or will there be a specific place?
And Joy can help me with this, but we are wanting to send books home with kids in a similar distribution method that we've done this year. The campus at Joe Harris is pretty south in Rio Rancho, and so we may do distribution from a more central location throughout the school year, such as district office, to try to make it convenient for families. But we do plan to send materials home with students. We didn't have as many paper books sent home this school year, and we're really trying to plan strategically to put books in students' hands, math manipulatives, science materials as much as possible sent home with families. And we'll try to plan ahead so that there are fewer distribution events. with that. Did I forget anything, Joy?
No, I think you got it all. We'll be putting those materials together as kits that will hopefully allow students the opportunities to really interact with the materials that they're needing for direct instruction and for practice. So more information about that will be forthcoming as we start to plan and put it all together.
Great. Okay. Will the virtual school calendar be the same as the in-person calendar?
That's an easy one. It will, yes. And we have been asked about the hours. Most of our elementary schools are from, they're 9 to 4. We haven't, that's what we're looking at right now. I think any flexibility to that might be an 8 to 3, but it would be the same number of hours. So we're looking at the same schedule since we don't have transportation to work with.
Great. Could you explain, Jana, why students would need to register at their home school and then request the transfer?
Yes, that is our district process across the board. So every year you have to register at your home school, and then you have to put in a transfer every year. That's the process our district has. That's how we keep track of our students in our district. They start at this school and then they move to another school, and then we know how many students have moved from, how many transfers at each site is something that we keep track of. So everybody enrolls in homeschool and you fill out a transfer. What happens the following year is the current school you're at. So we do Spark Academy this year. You're at Spark Academy for 21-22. When 22-23 comes, the registrar at Spark would send you a transfer application, and you would go ahead and fill it out before the end of the next school year. So that's already done for you. And then you would enroll. But this year we have to start with homeschool just to get the process going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have one last question. Are there plans for extracurricular activities as if they were on site, like sports or a PE plan?
We will have PE, although the teacher will be teaching virtually. We will have PE. We put in our presentation extended learning plan, which we do in Rio Rancho, and part of that funding is for before and after school opportunities. So we can definitely look at that with the teachers that are interested to have those after school clubs if kids would like to participate in that. And I don't know if they've done any this year, Rachel, through the virtual. I think they have. I know in secondary they have.
All right, so we are at the end of our session. Before we close out, I want to give an opportunity to any of our panelists who want to add anything else to your final words. And then I also want to give Heidi an opportunity to just give a little shout out to next week's Parent University, just to let us know what we'll be doing next Tuesday at 5:30. But first, Jana, Rachel, Paul, or Joy, is there anything else you have that you would like to add?
I would say if your child had success this year and you have, friends that whose students are thinking about it, encourage them to, put in an application, have them email us. We can send them the information. We want to continue having a successful program. So, get the word out there, put the word out there, and see if we can grow our program.
I think the only thing I would say is that, we've learned a lot about teaching and learning at the elementary in the virtual environment. This has been the first year that, many public schools have been thrown into virtual teaching and learning. And we've really enjoyed the challenge of figuring out what's best for students. And we are absolutely 100% dedicated to ensuring that your child gets the best education possible through this environment. So we're looking forward to many more years of supporting the virtual academy.
Thank you. Rachel or Paul, did you have anything?
I guess I'd just like to say that what Joy said, we've learned a lot over the year. I think we've done a pretty good job in supporting the homes, and we're really proud of that. And we're getting better at doing that. We have some lifelines out there. We have a service desk where families could call if they have any questions, and we're responding very quickly to that. So I think our kids and our teachers are getting more and more comfortable with the technology. Hopefully that was, we're seeing that tonight because there weren't many technology questions. But if you do have them, there's people available for that. So we just look forward in technology to serving you as best as we can this coming year.
Yes, and thank you everybody who watched tonight and watches it later. We really appreciate your interest. I think that we have teachers that are really excited about this really innovative option for our K-5 students that we had no idea was going to be so successful for our kids. And so if you think that this is going to be a good fit for your family, reach out to us. I will take your call, email us anytime, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Heidi, do you want to tell us a little bit about next Tuesday?
Hello, thank you. What amazing panelists. And the secondary grades 6 through 12 just want to capitalize upon the hard work and the opportunities for learning and using technology in those higher levels that we all have had to do this year. In the virtual, continuing this type of more remote learning and supporting learners primarily at home, the Cyber Academy will be taking on that initiative. And over the years, it's been doing it very successful since 2005, but they do it more in a blended look. So next week, we're going to dive in to more what that looks like. But just for this to, a few little shout outs and little details, there will be the 100% virtual where a kid, a student primarily learns from home. And that will look mainly, the meat of it will be on the Edgenuity platform, supplemented, supported, all of that through some similar meetings like this through Google Meet and some other Google Classroom. And that's mainly teacher driven. And it can be based on the student need, but that definitely will so that's a blending of two different technologies, but it still will primarily be done at home. There will be some designated days that the students, families, training, standardized testing, all of that, they will come in to the Cyber Academy, and that will be, definitely scheduled days. We'll see what next spring looks like with that standardized assessment and what our protocols will be there. But then the blended world, as the cyber fully knows, the 6 through 12, usually the middle school 6, 7, and 8 come a couple of days a week, 2 to 3 days, and then they learn the rest at home on Edgenuity supported by the teachers. Well, then the high schoolers come the opposite, 2 days and learn at home. So that's the blended of where they're blending face-to-face, physically in the building, as well as learning primarily, fulfilling their roles and responsibilities of their coursework at home. So it takes a different mindset, as everybody has learned this year. It takes a student who's driven. It takes a huge family support at home. And it has opened up a lot of flexibility and a lot of interest in engaging in technology to advance their own learning. The student is really in the driver's seat, and we tease kids at Cyber over the years that they're like driving their own individual courses versus the teacher's in control. Now the teacher is still there. We know it's nothing as important as the teacher. So we will be having teachers, we will do all of that. We will definitely enhance upon this in a panel next week, and we look forward to that. But that similar application is out there. I do know that it was emailed out to a number of families, and we're getting some responses, but I hope this clears it up just a little bit. We still will have the normal cyber in the blended, but 100% virtual, that will also be, and it'll be managed by Cyber Academy. So
thank you, Heidi.
Thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thank you. And so as a reminder, that Parent University is next Tuesday, April 27th at 5:30 here on our RRPS YouTube channel. So please join us if you're interested in learning more about that. Again, thank you to our panelists this evening. If you have a question that you did not get answered this evening, please remember that you can email us at sparkacademy@rrps.net. And remember that Spark with 2 R's for Rio Rancho, if you have a hard time remembering that. And also, this is recorded and is available. So if you need to watch it again and refer back to something, or if you want to share it with a family member or a friend, please feel free to access the video on our YouTube channel and share it. And with that, we'll say good night and hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.